Okay, good afternoon. Let's call the Alternative Educator Preparation Application Review Committee to order. Melissa, can you do the roll call?
Member Aragon?
Present.
Member Garcia? Member Larson?
Present.
Member Peasley?
Present.
Member Reedy?
Present.
You have a quorum.
Okay. Thank you all for being here. And Member Reedy, thank you for joining us on the phone. And I know making the trip up from Marana, especially this time of year and without AC, can be challenging, so I appreciate it. The first item on our agenda today is the election of a chair and a vice chair, and that's done annually. We had originally convened these committees without a chair or a vice chair, and that was because we didn't know how often this committee would be meeting, but it seems that we're going to be meeting more often than once a year, so it seemed prudent to have an election of a chair and a vice chair. So really there's two ways we can do this. The more straightforward way is just to accept nominations from the floor. So anybody on the committee can nominate anybody else on the committee. They can nominate themselves, and we can take all nominations. And then if there's only one candidate for chair and one candidate for vice chair, we can just do a voice vote. If not, we can move to paper ballots and do it a little more officially, but both are within the order. So are there any questions before we start opening it up?
It's not a question catcher, but Daisy Robledo is here, and she is our new education program specialist overseeing educator preparation for the department, and she will be taking my spot on the committee after this meeting, so it probably wouldn't be fitting for me to be nominated or chosen as one of those two positions.
Thank you, Member Larson. And I apologize for not giving you time to introduce Daisy. So thank you. Okay, is there anything else? Points of order? Okay, so with that, we can open it up for nominations. So anybody can nominate somebody for chair.
I nominate Kim Peasley for chair.
Okay, Kim Peasley for chair is the nomination, and
I'll accept.
Garcia just Member Garcia just showed up, so we'll give her some time to settle in. So Member Garcia, we're doing the election of the chair and the vice chair right now. Member Aragon just nominated Member Peasley as chair, and we're just sitting open if there's any other nominations.
Yes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other nominations for chair? So all in favor of Member Peasley as chair of the committee, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. And the motion passes. So Member Peasley, you are now the chair of the Alternative Educator Preparation Application Review Committee.
Thank you.
So we can also nominate a vice chair. It's a pretty small committee, but we can have a vice chair as well. So we'll open up nominations for that if anybody would like. And by the way, vice chair and chair, I should have explained the duties before. Member Peasley already assumed the duties.
In case I change my mind.
So the chair obviously is facilitating the meetings, also works with staff on some of the agenda items. For this committee, the agenda items are usually pretty straightforward. And then the vice chair would assume those roles should anything happen to the chair or they can't make it. So with that post hoc explanation out of the way, nominations for vice chair. Again, it's not mandatory that we fill it, but if anybody would like to serve or have any nominations.
I nominate Joshua Aragon for vice chair.
Okay, Member Aragon for vice chair.
Sure.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, all in favor of Member Aragon as vice chair, please say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Appears the ayes have it, so ordered. So Member Aragon is our vice chair, Member Peasley is our chair, and with that, the item number 1 is off the agenda, and I will hand it off to the newly elected chair.
Thank you, Catcher. The second item on the agenda is the call to the public, and this is the time for the public to comment on agenda items. Members of the committee may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38431.01H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion, consideration, and decision at a later date. I see we do have some members of the public, but they are also from the Vail Unified School District, and so I'm hoping we'll be hearing from them during the actual third agenda item. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, that's correct.
All right, we'll go on to number 3, presentation, discussion, and possible action to issue a recommendation to the State Board of Education regarding the classroom-based preparation program application of Vail Unified School District. Hatcher.
Madam Chair and members, I'm going to give some brief background on this before handing it over to the applicant and before opening it up to discussion for the committee. Melissa, do you have a mouse? Mine, I'm struggling here. Yeah, can you just put us on agenda item number 3? I don't know why the mouse is fighting me. So just as a little bit of background, this committee has seen an application or a couple applications for alternative prep programs. That's what we usually envision as alternative prep programs, as programs at the, by a third party or maybe a higher ed institution, and usually they're out of state and they're pretty big. This application before us today is the classroom-based preparation program. This is a new program application process that was established by the legislature 2 years ago, and the citation is 15-553, and that's linked in the background of this materials. We also have the reference on this computer, which we can toggle over if need be. There's some brief information on that program. I think sort of to boil it down, that these are essentially codifying grow your own programs and recognizing those pathways and then providing what's called the classroom-based certificate to individuals who complete that program. And there's very specific requirements for what individuals need to accomplish in order to obtain that certificate that are not dealt with as part of this program. So some of those include the subject knowledge, the professional knowledge, and also if they teach subjects that are specific to the statewide assessment, there's certain data and outcomes that they have to produce to the certification desk or that the program produces on their behalf that demonstrate that they've, for lack of a better term, been doing good work with those students. Again, those are requirements for the people who complete the program and then go to the certification desk for this new certificate. Not requirements for the program itself, but just wanted to clarify that. And then one other thing that I did want to talk about that's specific to this preparation program and the pathway is that per statute, per 15-553, the board is required to adopt, if we're on B here, rules, policies, and procedures to be administered by the department, and the rules may not be more restrictive or require more than is prescribed in this subsection. Now, the subsection is a little confusing because it has some things about the requirements for the new certificate, and then it has some things that are requirements for the program. Mm-hmm. But I think for this committee's purposes and for the board's purposes, number 3 is all that the board and thereby this committee is permitted to evaluate this program on, and that's the efficacy of the program. Now, for informational purposes only, and the applicant today did provide a program sequence and training schedule, but for this committee and the board's purposes, it's just efficacy. Is the program producing good outcomes for those teachers? And so I think that's a little bit different than some of the things that we've done with the TRAD programs and even with the alt prep programs, is that we look at some of the inputs a little more. In this program, the legislation is very specific. It's just the efficacy. So that's something that I wanted to hit on and go over with the committee. I think we talked a little bit about it in the background materials, but also just wanted to communicate it here. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on any of the background for the requirements for these kinds of programs, or statutory or rule or otherwise.
I do have a question. So when, on completion of the program designated by the LEA, what does the candidate bring to the counter? Because some of the information is the evidence of student achievement commensurate with that of other students in the district. So do they have to bring printouts from the school district? What will that look like at the certification counter?
Madam Chair, members, that's a good question. I'll flip over to the rule to help out, because I think there's two parts to your question. There's the first part, what, pursuant to the rule and statute, are they required to demonstrate? And then the second part is, how does that work in practice? So the first part to that question, what do they have to bring to the desk to get this new certificate? And those are listed out in rule, I think this is 614, beginning in subsection L, and that's a bachelor's degree, completion of the program, subject knowledge proficiency, and those are all the same routes that individuals can demonstrate subject knowledge proficiency now, same with professional knowledge proficiency. And then there's this requirement that's specific to these programs in little f, which is that if these individuals are seeking certification in an area that's assessed on the statewide assessment, they have to provide evidence of the 2 years of verified full-time teaching, but also that the students performed at grade level, or that they achieved at least 1 year of academic growth at a rate equivalent to the state average for those peer groups. And then, of course, a fingerprint clearance card. So those are the requirements for the new certificate. How it works in practice for things like that evidence, those are things that we are still working out with the certification desk. And that's something that we'll have to work out with the programs themselves, who it is incumbent upon. Well, it's incumbent at least on the applicant, but the program would have to help and assist also to provide some of that data that their that their students were performing at grade level, or that they achieved a year of academic growth. So there'll have to be some partnership there, but those are things that we're still working out with the certification desk on how that would work in practice, because we have not had applicants for this new certificate because we don't have any of these programs operating in the state right now.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions?
I have one question. I recall when this passed in the Certification Advisory Committee, there was a conversation. So if this program is started or is in Vail and becomes an authorized, they are given a classroom-based certificate, is that classroom-based certificate able to be used outside of that district, or is it just within that district?
Madam Chair, Member Garcia, the statute and the rule are both silent on that, and so because it's silent, it would be portable. Because without limitations put into the statute, which is very clear that we can add more restrictive or rules not outlined in the statute, because it's not outlined in the statute, we would then fall on the assumption that it's just like all other certificates, it's portable. So the individuals could leave the program, leave Vail's program, obtain a classroom-based teaching certificate, and then be able to teach in another LEA.
Okay.
I can seek further clarification on that from the sponsor of the bill, but to me, the statute, because it's silent, it seems clear. Well, maybe it's not clear. It'd be clear if it was explicitly said. But because it's silent on it, I would assume then it has to be portable.
Okay. So I would like to see if you could get some from the sponsor, because I kind of recall the opposite, that I thought the intent was to try to, especially in rural districts or smaller districts, that it was trying to do a literally grow your own program in which families and participants are from that community, we're going to be trained within that community, so they would be aware of the community that they were serving. So that piece would be, clearly teaching in Vail would be very different than teaching in Flagstaff or teaching in Phoenix. So looking over the program, that was what I was thinking, was keeping in mind that the educators were being trained to teach within Vail. And I, for some reason, recall that as part of the bill when it was going through when we were meeting with the maker, but maybe because it was silent, it makes sense, your thought process.
Then another question is this certificate also subject to a 12-year renewal process and the same guidelines for professional development?
Madam Chair, members, yes. So the certificate would be issued for 12 years, and it may only be renewed if the individuals meet the renewal continuing education requirements, which off the top of my head I think are 15 per year, but can be obtained in any chunks within that 12-year period.
And then is this certificate, does it say classroom-based certificate, or will it say a standard teaching certificate?
Madam Chair, members, my understanding is that it will be specifically called a classroom-based standard teaching certificate because it's under a different set of rules and it's very specifically different, just like an intern teaching certificate would say an intern cert. This one will be called something separately. Similar with the subject matter expert certificate, for example, that is not under the standard umbrella of what it's issued. That's called and issued something else.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Joshua, Steve?
No.
Okay, well, that takes care of the nuts and bolts piece. Now, for the fun part. Can we ask Vail to come up and discuss your program with us, please? You submitted a lot of great documents. It looks very interesting. And if you could say your name and where you're from.
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Brandy Doimich. I am the curriculum coordinator for the Vail Unified School District. I have brought Erin Schmidt, who is the director of high school instruction, alongside me to come and attend. And so I apologize if I seem nervous, but it's very exciting for us to be here. I wanted to give a little bit of information about our district. So we are from the Vail Unified School District. We have 13,625 pre-K through 12 students and 740 teachers within our school district. We have 8 traditional model elementary schools, 4 middle schools, 4 high schools, 2 K-8 schools, 1 full K-12 school, and 1 alternative high school. In addition, we also have a digital learning program and blended middle high school model. And we are located in a suburb south of Tucson in a more rural area that is swiftly growing. In the future, we anticipate needing to build at least 1 larger comprehensive high school, 1 more middle school, and at least 1 more elementary school to support the growth within our community. Today, we are a school district that prides ourselves on collaboration, comprehensive intervention systems, and a community focus. If you were to ask us about our state ratings and their relevance in 2002, you would have had a different picture of a different district. We had strong teachers, great students, and a supportive community, but our assessment results did not match all of the hard work that went into our classrooms. Our district regrouped, created common calendars, vertically aligned content in all grade levels, and began the hard work of getting along together to collaborate on district-aligned formatives and summative assessments. Teachers could trust that they knew the knowledge that the students were coming in with each year, and we had solid systems in place for all students who needed interventions. As we have grown, and as we've seen happen in much of the state, we saw a decline in the number of appropriately certified teaching applicants coming into our systems. We found an increasing need for substitute teachers to fill positions and saw the evolution of second career educators enter into our applicant pools more and more. We saw some very positive pieces from such passionate educators entering into the profession, but we were also able to identify areas of struggle for some, not all, of our candidates. We found that our newer teachers on internship certificates, or those that had not had a traditional student teaching experience, needed more supports than what our school district was currently providing. In response, we created a district coaching program for all new teachers who were alternative pathway teachers. It began with more observations and collaborations with these teachers and grew to increased new teacher induction dates, structured observations, and more supports and collaborations with site leadership that was hiring these individuals. We termed the process direct coaching because, exactly as it sounds, we found the best results with teachers when we could directly provide feedback regarding what changes or methods would enhance their teaching. We created structured tiers with a focus on classroom management, procedures, and leading up to the integration of critical thinking skills, community involvement, and more in-depth teaching skills. This process is inclusive of utilizing the essential elements of instruction effectively, staff collaboration, lesson planning, management, once again, those relationships. Direct coaches work closely with teachers and site leadership and have open forms of communication, often copying the principal or administrator on feedback notes and having frequent check-ins with both teacher, administration, and site leadership. Our focus also shifted from recruitment to retention once we had these hardworking and industrious individuals in our midst. As a school district, for all teachers, new teachers, we have cognitive coaching, literacy coaching, and math coaching provided. We saw that we needed a little bit more coaching with our teachers who did not have that traditional student teaching experience and provide this for all. We estimate that it costs approximately 1.5 times a teacher's salary to recruit and hire a teacher, keep them. So if we're using a number of $38,000 as the teacher's salary, with approximately $60,000 being the cost of when we need to hire a new teacher. When looking at training and recruitment over a 2-year span for the teacher, it costs approximately 3 times the teacher strategy to recruit, hire, and train a new teacher if we're counting our 2-year induction period and all of the coaching involved. The more that we can support, collaborate, and connect our teachers with our community, our district, and our families, the more likely we are to keep a high-quality teacher. As our direct coaches continue to work with our alternative pathway teachers, we also work to highlight their effectiveness within the classroom and what steps they are taking that enhance the classroom, schools, and communities that they're in as well. We have the direct coaching process in place for all new alternative pathway teachers and stress when working with them that we understand the struggles and transitions they have to make. And that not including other methods, experiences, or shadowing, many traditional programs require at least 160 hours of student teaching as observed by a highly effective teacher with a complementary 400 hours of co-teaching with that same teacher. When our applicant pool was comprised mostly of those that had went through a traditional teacher program, we could anticipate the experience and knowledge that our teachers came in with was very much the same. In similar fashions, after our 2002 data for our students, we saw that we needed to align our professional development and coaching to meet the needs of the now diverse population that we're now serving in our applicant pool. With alternative pathway educators, we were asking them, regardless of experience or progress in a program, to jump in as if then they had the same traditional experiences. In reality, they came from multiple programs, different areas of the world, and other pieces. These teachers could be in their first class, or they could be completing their student teaching when coming in. So we also found that they felt overwhelmed by teaching all day and then working to complete their own classwork in the evenings to go towards their certificate. Yeah. It became even more difficult if teachers were asked to complete assignments in classes that conflicted with their lessons and other duties as assigned. Essentially, teachers felt tasked with choosing between their own education and that of their students. If anyone understands the following quote, is definitely all alternative pathway teachers, that the best thing about being a teacher is that it matters. The hardest thing about being a teacher is that it matters every day. As a school district, we began to look into what we could do to support our teachers in this endeavor, and at the same time, the classroom-based certification application passed legislation, and we began to build our program to support these teachers. In the application, you can see that we believe in incorporating methods courses, exceptional education courses, and management, but approach the teacher internship process with as much collaboration, experiences, observation, and support during their experiences in teaching with us. An application in our program is dependent upon continual employment with our district. Teacher evaluations alongside passing the professional knowledge assessments are paramount to gaining entrance and staying within the program. We feel that the program will provide, and that we provide, will allow teacher applicants to receive effective classroom supports, learn through on-the-job experience and corresponding coursework, while being able to focus on their very important position of being the teacher for our community's children.
Okay, thank you very much. I do have a question. Are all of the teachers in your program assigned to a particular classroom, or do you have teachers that, as your district hired substitute teachers on assignment at schools, and are they also involved in this program?
So our teachers are assigned to a specific classroom. They have students that are their own. They're within PowerSchool and on their rosters. We have not supported in the past substitutes that have been moving from classroom to classroom or various assignments.
Okay, thank you. Joshua, you have a question?
Not at this time.
I have a question about the mentor program you guys talk about for these teachers. Could you tell me a little bit about that? It seems to be effective, so I'm just, yeah. No, but I know mentors are very difficult to come by and train. Is that part of the process?
Actually, we've identified through most of our coaching that we have lots of strong educators. We also have lots of busy educators, and that's where we start to see a little bit falter. And so for the first year with our direct coaching, we actually ask our student achievement teachers or other effective teachers that are able to observe do multiple observations versus the traditional 3 method for cognitive coaching. And so we find that giving them someone that they know that they can call or email or can come in during third period if they need help is paramount to a teacher's transition. And then as we continue for that second year, we would place them with a mentor teacher within their own grade level and group to help them alongside. But to be honest, I think we previously had an approach with coaching where it was more of between the coach and the teacher and inviting administration in. And leadership as well, and letting the teacher know that from day one has been really helpful because we don't have a coach come in and say, you know, you really need to work on management, but then have the administrator come in and give them something else to work on in addition to.
So are the mentors that you all choose, are they trained on how to be mentors, or are they more just coming in based off their own?
We bring them in with the cognitive coach training, and then we train them on the direct tiers that we've created, and we've aligned back to our standards. So we do a training with them, and then we also make sure, and this is something that new that we're doing, but we're doing monthly check-ins. We like to check the progress of the teachers and to see if there are any people that need more support, any teachers that are just doing really well. And then because we do structured observations with these teachers as cohorts, we take them into classrooms across the district at least 3 times a year. We find out what their needs are. And so I can tell you right now that our first observations are going to be on classroom management.
Right.
And going in to observe. And we take about 3 to 4 teachers in a group with a mentor, sit down in the back of classrooms, and are able to talk through what's going well.
Okay. Thank you.
So I had a question that piggybacks on your question, actually. So the instrument, it looks like your PACE observation instrument or tool. Is that the instrument that you use for those observations that you're talking about?
Are you talking about the formal observation?
It looks like it, although, yeah. Right.
So that is actually a variance of our teacher evaluation, which we have for the teacher evaluation framework. And so that tool is what the principal utilizes during the first quarter to say whether they're meeting the needs. The direct coach and mentor comes in with a similar document, documenting where teachers are doing well, but it's a bit more detailed as far as do we need to work on bell work, do you have a signal, and other pieces, very similar to a math coaching or balanced literacy coaching sheet.
Okay, thank you.
So you provided this one. There are other variations of this that's used by the coaches, and there's a second one that the principal uses for the second semester?
Yes, so for second semester for our non-continuing, and that's their formal evaluation, they use the full teacher evaluation framework that we've had approved, where the principal will evaluate them as the highly effective, and developing. We met with a group of administrators to create what we felt was an abbreviated piece of that. And you can see that we've made it down into 2 columns versus 4, so that teachers could get an idea of how they were doing within that first quarter.
I really liked it. I thought as a model for working with teachers in this alternative pathway, it is more comprehensible and so much less intimidating than the traditional observation instrument. I think that's a great form design. And Vail continues to be an educational design leader in the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you walk us through your efficacy data, please?
I'm sorry?
Could you walk us through your efficacy data?
Yes. All right. Oh, thank you so much. All right, so Oh, hey now. Oh, thank you. So these were the 39 teachers who ended up receiving direct coaching last year. Some were in programs, some not, just depending on their experience. And so we pulled the data that we had available. So if they were in a tested subject, which we test our benchmarks on grade levels 2 through 11, then we provided that information. And if they were an AZ Merit tested subject, we wanted to provide the information showing how they fared on AZ Merit versus the state average. For our own classroom benchmarks, we compared them with the district average. So those are comparable to veterans, new teachers, and all of our teachers. We also have our special education students generally within mainstream classes and mixed in, and so we don't generally see pull out with teacher with only special education, et cetera. They are mixed. So the populations are comparable with our veteran teachers as well. But if I look at teacher A, Cottonwood Elementary, math benchmark, you can see the comparable to the district average. We do 3 benchmarks a year, reading and math, and then we also have the teacher evaluation score, effective, developing, highly effective, just to show how their principals rated them as far as that teacher evaluation framework. Last, we have the school survey GPAs. Shows that our community was very supportive of the schools within, once again, leadership and, the school principals, your child's academic progress, and GPA in pieces.
4-point scale?
Yes, 4.0 scale. Mm-hmm.
Have you done any statistical analysis to see the deviations between these teachers and others in the district?
As far as our veteran teachers or our new teachers, not at this time.
Okay.
How many of the 39 teachers are returning? Do you know yet? Well, of course, we haven't had, I don't know, have you started yet?
We have started. We're still calculating that number. We originally started with 44 last year, beginning in July, and we had 39 complete with us. 3 of the 5 that left by first quarter.
Okay.
And we were able to see the other 2. We had 1 leave in December and then 1 leave in March. Okay. I don't have the returning number, but we will be able to get that.
Any more, that takes a couple weeks, doesn't it?
Get that? We're trying to still let the dust settle, yes.
Madam Chair, members, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So we have the individual teacher data, but we don't have maybe like summative data for the whole program. I tried to do some very quick and brief calculations, but I wanted to ask before guessing, did you have any cumulative, like just program-wide summary data on some of the things listed out here, or?
So as I'm looking here, we had 39 obviously complete with this, so we were able to do so. 84.6% of those 39 that completed with us within our direct coaching and other supports were rated as effective or highly effective by their site leadership. 100% of the participants who were CTE had 100% passing scores for their CTE assessments, which is what we go by. 21 were responsible for AZ Merit tested assessments, and I see 86% scored above the state average in these assessments.
Okay.
And one of the requirements of ARS 15553 is the data collection, achievement data collection. There's not data, and you mentioned that benchmark testing is done grades 2 to 11.
Yes.
So how are these teachers going to be able to show achievement data in grades K1, 12, PE, Spanish, CTE? Because we don't have tests for that.
So for the CTE, we were counting on the CTE assessments to help show the student progress and how they were doing. With K1 and 12, and you said as specialists, we rely upon site data generally to say the score for a school, which is what we've done in the past. This is obviously going to be a new piece that we'd look into, but we also have STEEP data, and which is our curriculum-based measures that we would look into implementing for these teachers as well to show that they were making comparable growth.
the curriculum-based measures, that is like using Dibbles or Ames Web, something
With
like
an
that?
ORF, uh-huh.
Okay, that. And then for the 12th graders, for your seniors, do you have, and your Spanish PE, do you have end-of-course assessments that you're talking about using then?
We do not have those at this time. It sounds like it's something that we're going to need to if we're looking into specialist areas and trying to create something that's comprehensible. We're also trying to make sure that we are utilizing measurements and assessments that are relevant to the classroom and not creating extra pieces for those students and families.
Right. So right now, that would be a stumbling block for the Spanish and the PE teacher and the 12th grade.
Yeah, we were hoping we're needing to rely more upon the site leadership and administration there, just as there is no state assessment that we could go back to that we could even compare amongst districts. But once again, going back to that evaluation by site leadership, the direct coach and other people there as to what they could accomplish.
Could I ask a clarifying question, Catcher, from you actually on this?
Please.
Same item, 15533B1. It appears, and I'm using some of your terminology from earlier, Catcher, it appears that that part of the statute is silent on courses that are not statewide tested. Is that interpretation correct?
Madam Chair, Member Larson, that's correct. So the piece where applicants to obtain this cert would have to demonstrate that their students are making growth or at grade level is only for applicants seeking certification in the areas assessed by the statewide assessment. So these are things that we'll have to work out with the certification desk on, because some of those subjects there's maybe some gray area, but on things like PE, for example, that's pretty clearly not assessed by the statewide assessment, and so there would not have to be, for that individual to obtain the certificate, he or she would not be required to provide evidence of students being at grade level, but somebody seeking a secondary certification with an approved area, well, it wouldn't be a secondary certification, it would be a classroom-based certification, but somebody seeking to teach in English in 9th grade would have to provide evidence that, you know, their students are at grade level or they're achieving a year's worth of growth compared to that peer group.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Joshua?
Catcher, can you clarify further as well? So in terms of the district providing data for, let's say, Spanish or PE teachers, I know our job here is to kind of determine the efficacy of the program. If a lot of that data is missing, to what extent is that just kind of up to us to say, well, you know, we're not sure if it's effective or not, or because I mean, I understand that the individual person doesn't need to submit that data, but to what extent does the district need to show that if they're training PE teachers or Spanish teachers or art teachers, that they're being effective in those subject areas?
Madam Chair, Member Aragon, it's a good question. I think part of it is up to the committee and the board how they are evaluating the program as a whole. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons that I had asked about the sort of summative, summary data, in that the evaluation really should be on the program-wide basis, and having individual teacher-level data is certainly informative, but it does, illuminate that there may be some gaps in data that are just a product of what those subjects are. I would advise on a staff level that you take those into consideration, but you evaluate the program as a whole as best as possible.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. That makes good sense. Oh, now were you aware of that quirk, or was this something?
That's where as we were aware of moving forward and knowing that we weren't able to pull that specific data for these teachers, is where we really do rely upon the leadership in those teaching evaluations and what we're able to pull in. I can't say enough how much we deal with collaboration and the efforts of all of our teachers, where we say that it is the PE specialist at Cottonwood that is also influencing the reading level and ability and math scores for our students as well. And so when we look at the teacher evaluation frameworks, and even though they're considered, I believe it's B teachers or teachers that don't have data assessed, we confidently say that they can share in the scores of those classrooms and that they collaborate with those teachers to ensure that it is a productive, healthy environment and successful.
All right, so you're going to plan to use the school data for the B group teachers?
That's what we've done, is the school data and showing. And so when we receive our labels, we've already received our AZ Merit data. We're able to pull that and say that it's the success of the whole and the collaborative efforts.
Okay.
And just to clarify your statement, you said that 86% of the teachers on this document had scores that were within the district average, about the same?
I'm sorry, above the state average in the
Above
AZ
the
Merit
state
assessments.
average.
I would have to calculate again for our benchmarks, but that number I do not have ready, but I could have available in a moment.
Madam Chair, I have another question.
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
Thank you. I'm looking at your methods of accountability documentation. Thank you, by the way, for providing all of this. Towards the bottom, there's a bullet that says, what is the length of the program? And the sub-bullet is 1 to 2 years. Can you expand on what that would look like for someone to complete the program in 1 year?
So we would still go with the stipulation of at least 2 years of verified teaching experience. This would be a teacher who has started stamp of approval from an administrator. And all of this is conditional upon employment with us.
So you could be looking at having some of these, or as many of these teachers as possible, have their classroom-based teaching certificate for the 1920 school year.
I don't know that it would be as many as...
Well, in a perfect world.
Yes, so that would be a possibility for us. I don't know that we'd have that applicants ready to go for that. Many of the people that would or have expressed interest so far are those just beginning a program.
So these 39 people are not already, they have not already signed this intent, your letter of intent. Okay, these are just the permanent subs that you've got in the district. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yes, none have applied for our program as we don't have one, and so that's where we've made nothing. When they've come, we often get teachers asking us for counsel on which program to apply to, and that's where we've been working alongside our local community college to provide supports as well, if that's a plan that works for them.
Okay,
I feel it's a rigorous program that provides strong supports.
So then would it be fair to say then that if this is approved by the state board, that this information gathered from the 17-18 school year could, well, maybe they don't have, those teachers may not have those coursework, the courses, that's the piece that's missing, is that correct?
Yes.
The coursework from Pima Community College is what's missing, but you've already done the coaching, because you've talked, correct? Because you've talked about that's in place for all new teachers and alternative path. So that's already in place. All right, thank you very much. That clarifies that then for me too.
Yeah, that was my question.
Marisol?
Yeah, that was my question. Is that the direct coaching that is already happening just for alt or for all new teachers?
Just for alternative pathway, and we've extended that definition to include those that did not have a traditional student teaching experience.
Okay.
Okay. Steve, question?
I do, and I'm trying to stay within the parameters of, thank you, Catcher, for B2, which tells me that it's for informational purposes only. In the summer of the second year, or between the first and second year, there's a Pima Classroom Management course. You mentioned earlier that they would be doing observations of you're about to have their first ones, and it would be on classroom management.
Yes.
Is that correct on that?
Yeah, and so I know it seems like there's a little bit of a delay for that course, but it's a difference between having it in practice and then understanding the philosophy and pedagogy as they're going into their second year and able to reflect upon their practices to make strong decisions. Okay. Many of our teachers, when they come in, are asking, don't tell me about signals, tell me a signal, and I will utilize that. And so it's our scaffolding.
I saw that and I caught that too, but from my experience and my background, I liked hearing that separation, because then when they take that classroom management, they already have a significant stockpile of information on which they can hang those principles that they're learning, and then they can make better use of it, rather than just the overwhelming new information, which is what we're seeing with our teachers as they're going through the intern. As they travel through the intern certificate and they're taking all of their required coursework within 2 years. So I appreciate that scaffold.
Well, and Madam Chair, we try to have a nice cohesive piece to it. So the one piece that sometimes maybe isn't seen right away in this is all of these alternative pathway folks are also taking part in our new teacher induction programs, which are very upfront loaded with classroom management. And so the other piece of it is why do too much at once when you can spread it out over a period of time?
I appreciate that. Because your hope would be that they make it to the summer of between the first year and the second year, if without anything up front, to help them get through that triage period, if you will.
Triage period. I like that. Maybe we've just coined a new phrase for education. Oh, goodness. Joshua, question?
So I just did some quick averages with Excel. I'm not seeing a deviation of more than about 3 percentage points from your district average across the board, so that seems pretty good. I am concerned that we don't have a lot of data on the non-tested subjects. So that concerns me, but in terms of the tested subjects, I think based on this data here, if we're comparing the average of benchmark scores, which I know is not a perfect science by any means, against your district averages, it looks like we're about an average about 1.5 points from your district average, maybe lagging behind just a little bit. I think I found one benchmark where it was the math benchmark 3, where the average was actually a little bit higher than your district average. So
They hit their stride.
yeah, they hit their stride there. But just wanted to let the committee know, if you run some averages, it's the deviation is not very far.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you very much for doing that. Are there any other questions?
I don't think so.
Eric, you've been so patient. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I think I was just brought for window dressing. I'm not sure. I'm teasing. No, I have none.
Madam Chair, can we ask if Member
Yes,
Reedy
go
has anything to... Does Member Reedy, do you have anything, any questions or comments?
No, my committee member colleagues are excellent, and actually I was checking off the questions as they asked them. I did have some questions about retention rate, and so I am curious about how many of the 39 teachers do return or have returned for this school year in Vail. And I do echo just the ongoing challenges we have for providing data for Group B teachers in those specialty areas. But those were the two big pieces, the two big question marks I had. I did maybe just want to confirm that the survey data was school-level data and not linked directly to the 39 teachers, correct?
That is correct. That is school-level data.
All right. Thank you. Those are the only questions that I had.
Thank you. Okay. If there aren't any other questions, then I think our task for today is what our job is to recommend that this committee recommend to the State Board of Education that they approve or deny Vail Unified School District's classroom-based preparation application. So now we're looking for a motion. Okay. Oh, we have another question.
No, I
Excuse
still
me.
have my question that I asked Catcher. I still question that because I'm not sure if you all had any thought if this was intended to certify somebody that then would teach in another school district. So that's my only cause for initiating the motion.
Okay.
Because I'm missing a piece of information.
And ask someone to move that the Alternative Educator Preparation Application Review Committee recommend to the State Board of Education the approval of the Vail Unified School District's classroom-based preparation application. Is there someone?
So moved.
Thank you, Josh. So moved. Second?
Second.
Seconded by Steve. Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. So then, what happens next at this point for Vail? Catcher, do we have any idea when this might appear on the next board agenda?
Madam Chair, members, yes, this will go on the August State Board of Education regular board meeting, which is near the end of this month, the fourth Monday of this month, third Monday of this month. Mm-hmm. It's my own board, I should know.
The 27th.
It's sometime this month. It'll go on for this month's State Board of Education meeting. If approved, then of course, Vail is approved and they can begin operating. And there's, biennial reports similar to the alt prep programs. They will be a little bit different because of some of the data. They are different than the regular alt prep program, so we'll have to work on that. If the board denies the program, then we go through the similar process that we had done earlier with that other denied program. There's a window for resubmittal, and it would come back to this committee, and then we'd follow those steps. And I would be happy to follow up with the committee members to inform them of the board's action so that, we can close the loop on that.
That's very much appreciated. Thank you. Okay.
And I'm sorry, also, Madam Chair, Member Garcia, I am following up on your question. I will make sure to follow up with the committee ASAP on that.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming today, for being here, for your great preparation, the terrific information that you have provided, and all the very best on your program. And here's hoping it gets, State Board is excited about it too.
Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Last item on the agenda is future meeting dates and items for future agenda. Do we have anything in the works that you know of, or anything that might be coming up soon?
Madam Chair, members, we did have a program submit an application, and then upon further review, they decided to withdraw that application. So my understanding is that they're working on it and may resubmit it sometime. I don't have a timeline on that, though, so just something that this committee is going to have to keep flexible on in terms of dates and times. It's just the nature of the beast with this committee, and soon Steve won't have to worry about it, and he can just have, Member Larson won't have to worry about it, and then Daisy will have to. So, but no, other than that, nothing.
So this might be a good time for Member Larson to introduce your replacement.
Yes.
Could you come up,
I'm
please?
just to say, I would like to have Daisy do it, actually. Daisy, would you come up to the mic and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so I'm Daisy Robledo, and I started here in May, so I'm fairly new, but slowly but surely getting used to the new position. I've been in education for the past 10 plus years. I've been a teacher, administrator, coach. I've done a little bit of everything. I don't know. What else would you like to know?
And Daisy, what's your title? What's your
So
position?
I'm an educator specialist, and I oversee the EPP, so the programs, the approval process, educator preparation programs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you, Steve. So are you going to be doing something more fun than this?
Just my regular job.
Okay.
Madam Chair, to that point, I want to thank Member Larson for his time on this committee. It does call for an ADE representative. It doesn't say it has to be him, so I appreciate him taking the time out. And always a good resource when I have questions on things like this, especially on this committee. So
yes, thank you. Yes, yeah, being in your division of ADE, that's been real important. Your questions have been insightful and very helpful.
Thank you.
As we've gone through this process. So thank you very much, Steve. If there are any other questions, comments, then I will adjourn this meeting of the Alternative Educator Preparation Application Review Committee. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. Travel safely and well.